Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, make predictions for the upcoming games, and much, much more. What is up, everybody? We are set to get into the thick of the SEC schedule and really start finding out the true identity of the teams around the league, who's a contender and who's a pretender. We'll begin to truly find out as the season continues to unfold. So welcome again. My name's Wes. Joining me, as always, our Alabama fandom representative, Jesse. What's going on?
I wonder if the rest of the Alabama fans listening are like, I hate that she's a representative. I wonder if they're like, she's obnoxious and she hates everybody.
You know,
maybe.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is, but also, I think somewhat realistic.
Yeah. We're going to start getting a lot of, emails. She does not speak for me.
Yeah, she doesn't speak for me. I'm sorry. I don't claim to speak for all Alabama fans. I'll put that blanket statement out there now.
Yeah, well, so like I said, we're about to get into the thick of things. It's going to be getting exciting here very soon, and with a lot of teams finding out who they are. So let's talk about some hot button topics in the speed round. Speed round. All right, so we talked in the previous episode, mini-sode, about Georgia's somewhat lackluster performance against Kent State on Saturday. And the speed round question is, will that have a positive impact, meaning providing real in-game examples of how things that they need to work on, ways to improve while still getting a win, or do you think it could have a negative impact, such as getting into the heads of the players, showing them that they have weaknesses that can be exploited by a team that isn't even top tier? I don't know, Jesse, what do you think?
I don't think it'll impact Georgia's players necessarily. I think Kirby Smart's a good enough coach to know how to combat that. Mm-hmm. And I think the players, they were obviously there. They know the mistakes that they made and they know what they need to work on, and they're part of a top tier program. So I have no doubt that they will work on those. I think those that it will impact are the teams that are going to play them. I think they're going to watch that film and they're going to pick up ways that Kent State's offense was able to get at Georgia's defense and ways that their defense was able to hold Georgia's very potent offense. That I think will help them. I also think it will help other teams in confidence, knowing that there are some holes. It's not just this, Goliath that they have to slay. They know that there is some points of weakness that they can hopefully try to exploit, especially if it's an SEC team that counts themselves as someone who's better caliber or more of a higher caliber than that of Kent State.
Yeah,
but I don't think it affects Georgia.
I tend to agree with you, not just because I'm a Georgia fan, but like you said, I think Kirby's a good coach. I almost, to a certain extent, and when I stopped myself in the last episode about continuing, it was because I really wanted to kind of get into it here, and that was that I think Kirby may have even, to a certain extent, I don't think you ever really want to struggle, but I think that he wanted his team to have a test. I think he wanted his team to even if it's just like a mental test of like, okay, let's do better. But in this sense, it's like, look, this is what can happen when maybe you assume too much. And yeah, we're fortunate that it's against this team because we're still able to get the win. But you guys cannot mess around like this against, better teams and expect to walk away with a win.
Yeah, you want your test to be against a Kent State because you can recover from that test. You don't want it to be against an SEC rival that you may not be able to recover with, or against an out-of-conference team that is of a higher caliber, because you can't always recover from that. And those losses do get into your head.
Yeah. And my only hope is, so you mentioned the teams that are going to face them. My only hope is hopefully by the time those teams get there, those holes have been filled. And so it's not as much of an issue once we get there. And, there's some things that, are just inherently you're not going to fix as easily. But we'll see. That's the hope anyway. All right. Question number 2: Is Max Johnson the quarterback to take Texas A&M into the promised land, or is A&M just getting by with him at the helm right now? Is this just sort of yeah, it's great, he's won both starts, but I don't know, it's just not going to work out in the long run. What do you think?
I don't think any of their quarterbacks that I've seen thus far are going to take them into the promised land. I think they'll get them through the season.
Yeah.
And probably a winning season. I don't think any of the quarterbacks I've seen are quarterbacks that are going in the record books and are the ones that are going to take them to an SEC championship or a national championship. No.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And even when I was coming up with this question, I was in my mind, I was thinking, I don't think so. And honestly, I couldn't name you somebody on their roster that would. I mean, granted, we haven't seen everybody, at least not in full, but and maybe there's, somebody who's great that we haven't seen yet. I know that they're
doing the job.
Yeah, he's getting by, and
not excelling. He's doing the job.
They were throwing around the term game manager, and they were putting a positive spin on it where, yeah, he's just doing what they need to win. And I get it, but I just don't get the sense that A&M is going to be one of those teams that can keep up if there's like an offensive type of shootout or anything like that. Maybe their defense is going to keep them close, and that'll be their saving grace this year. But I just don't see that happening.
I don't either. I mean, again, I didn't see Calzada doing that to us last year either, but I've been wrong before. But that was just one game.
Yeah, that was exactly. That was just so weird. It's like, what stars aligned that day? Because you look at Zach Calzada before, Zach Calzada after, and then on that particular game, you're like, what happened? I don't understand.
Your Texas juju. I don't know.
All right, so that brings us to our final speed round question. And let's say, Jesse, that Bama fans' greatest current wish comes true and Bill O'Brien is hired away. Who is your top choice for OC?
You mean the Bill O'Brien that called a go for it on 4th and 12 this past weekend, which is only okay because it was Vanderbilt and it still wasn't okay?
One and the same.
I have no idea who my top choice is to be OC. I really don't. It's not Bill O'Brien. I'll tell you that right now. I'll let anybody take him. I'll also throw in Pete Golding as just like a BOGO if you want him to. I don't know. It's hard because, I'm going to say like Steve Sarkisian or honestly Lane Kiffin come back. Their head coaches are not coming back.
Yeah.
But
that ship has sailed.
It's going to have to be, knowing Bama, it's going to have to be somebody that's screwed up that needs like rehab, coaches rehab. And I don't know who that is right now.
In some cases, it's actual rehab.
Sometimes it's real rehab. I think it's probably going to be like what we did with Bill O'Brien and Sark. It's going to have to be somebody that didn't do well in the NFL. Well,
I was thinking somebody like Scott Frost, maybe.
Oh, that's a possibility.
I mean, how many, like you said, how many coaches have we seen go through that Alabama quote unquote rehab program and then, come out on the other side better for it? I don't know. I could see that with the Scott Frost project at Nebraska in a failed state. And I could see that. I don't know. Other than that was the only name that really came to my mind. I didn't know if there was any others that were floating out there.
Somebody that I like haven't thought of. I have no idea. Like, I don't know. Is Rex Ryan all of a sudden going to want to like come back into coaching? I have no
idea. Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for the speed round. Let's do a really quick opinion.
Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right. Now, this one I wish that we did have Matt here for, but from the words of the head coach, from the words of the head coach himself, Josh Heupel, Rocky Top is back, is what he said at the close of that interview. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Rocky Top is back? Whatever that means. I mean, I guess that's kind of open to interpretation.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't care. I genuinely don't care what Tennessee does.
Yeah.
Except the third weekend in October. Outside of that, I don't care anything you do. You do not matter to me, except for that one Saturday. That's the only thing I care about. And if them being back is them winning every game but the third Saturday in October, fine, be back.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want you to win that game. I don't know. I truly don't. I think Pitt, you had to win in a lot of overtime. Barely won against Florida, and that was at home. And that's a Florida team that we've all said is a little sus.
Mm-hmm.
The record is good. The games, if you analyze them within that record, I don't know that I'm fully convinced. I will be fully convinced if and when they beat Bama.
Yeah. I don't know. So that's a tough question for me. I would say, I don't know if Rocky Top is quote unquote back or not, but I will say that I think that Heupel is the guy who could get them there. If they're not there right now, of all the coaches that they've had since Fulmer, I would say that Heupel is the guy that could get them there. Really, at this point, all they're lacking is a consistent defense.
Yeah.
It's akin to how we spoke of a Lane Kiffin team, a couple years ago. Offense spectacular, man. If they could just find some defense, they would be a real scary team. And I think that the same could be said for the Vols right now. Yeah. If they're able to find that, and I don't know if that means having another DC or what adjustments they need to make on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe perhaps as more recruits come in, they'll be able to establish that more. But that's really the only piece that's lacking to me. And then I think they could say that Rocky Top is back, as much as I hate to say that.
I know.
So, yeah, more to follow on that. Let's do a quick listener feedback segment.
You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
So we did a real quick, and I just posted it this afternoon, so it was just a real quick turnaround. But what are the biggest takeaways from yesterday's games, or I say Saturday's games rather? And so KW Anthony says the West is good, and I was thinking about that, and in my mind, I pushed back on that initially, and I was like, honestly, to me, the West is probably a little bit more wide open than it's been in a long time. And that's just in my own mind. But then I backtracked in my own mind because I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. I was going to say the West could just be growing where even some of the mid-tier, maybe even some of the traditionally lower tier teams in the West are doing better. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, LSU seems to be decent right now.
Some of them are question marks. Don't get me wrong.
Some of them are question marks. I mean, maybe I'm thinking about the East. Like, obviously, Georgia's the biggest contender in the East, but you can't necessarily count out Kentucky. You can count out Florida. I think maybe the West is just a little bit more wide open as far as talent goes, because Bama is the clear runner in the West, but you still have some teams tagging along that are still good programs. So maybe I think on both sides of the conference, there's a few that are pretty decent, and there's a few bottom feeders right now. Mm-hmm. But there doesn't seem to be as much like disparity between.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. It's just something that when I first saw that, I was like, man, I don't know about that. But then at the same time, it was like, well, maybe they're all kind of getting better together. And so we're seeing, like you said, maybe a little bit more closer competition there. All right. Well, let's talk about some of these games coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble.
All right. The first game of next week's games, or this upcoming slate of games, is number 7 Kentucky at 4-0, 1-0 in the SEC, at number 14 Ole Miss, 4-0, 0-0 in the SEC. That is noon on ESPN. Jesse, what is your prediction for Kentucky at Ole Miss? SEC Nation will be there, by the way.
Oh no, I went back and forth on this one a lot. I was not impressed by Ole Miss's performance against Toledo. I think, like we mentioned on last episode, consistency is huge, and they are at the Grove, so that helps them. But I think Kentucky can get it done as long as we have some pass protection for Will Levis. So I'm going to pick Kentucky, but I really think this is going to be a close match, despite the fact that it's 7 against 14. I'm going to pick the Wildcats 31-28.
Okay. Matt has Ole Miss winning this one 28-24. Both of these teams have, like we talked about earlier, shown inconsistencies this year. Ole Miss seems to be, in my mind, slightly more inconsistent. Maybe, I don't know if that's fair or not. But they're playing at home. Experts are picking Ole Miss in this game, in a close one. But I don't know. I just have a weird feeling Kentucky gets it done on the road. I'm going to go 28-24 as well, but favor Kentucky. So next is Eastern Washington at 1-2, at Florida 2-2, and that is noon on ESPN Plus. Jesse, your predictions for this one?
Let's hope this is not like USF. It should not be. And I'm going to go with the Gators 31-13.
All right. Matt is also going with the Gators 38-13. I'm going to go with Florida 35-10. Next is South Carolina State at 1-2, at South Carolina 2-2, noon on SEC Network. Jesse, your prediction?
Again, this should be another one that should go off without a hitch, hopefully. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks 31-10.
All right. Matt is also going with South Carolina 28-10. I've got South Carolina 42-13. Next, number 2 Alabama at 4-0, 1-0 in the SEC, at number 20 Arkansas 3-1, 1-1 in the SEC, 3:30 on CBS. Jesse, what do you got?
We got Gary Danielson, which sucks, but we'll just put it on mute. I think this is going to be a game where Bama comes in and wants to get down to business. I think we were able to clean up a lot of penalties. This past week, we must have had a lot of drills because we were doing a lot better there. That, close game to Texas really woke us up. I think Arkansas is also going to put forth their best foot, considering they lost to A&M at home, which has to hurt. But I'm picking the Tide. Okay, I'm picking the Tide 38-24. I almost changed. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just
gonna leave the score. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were gonna change your pick.
No.
Maybe the score. Yeah.
Just the score.
Yeah. All right. Matt is going with Bama as well. 28-13. Look, Bama has to be careful here. Okay. Arkansas is good, and they're gonna want to bounce back after that tough loss, of course. I do think that near the end of the game, it's a nail biter. But I think Bama scores late to kind of pull away slightly. I got Bama 31-21 on this one. All right, next is number 17, Texas A&M, 3-1, 1-0 in the SEC, at Mississippi State, 3-1, 0-1 in the SEC. And that's 4:00 on SEC Network. Jesse, your prediction for this one?
This one's going to be, I think, a close one. Honestly, I think that because they are in Starkville, I'm going to pick Mississippi State, but I do think these programs are very evenly matched at this point. So I think Will Rogers is going to be able to get it done. I'm picking the Bulldogs 38-35, but it's a close one.
All right. Matt is going with A&M 28-21. So let's see. I am thinking, Starkville is going to be wild on Saturday. And I think that does give them a little bit of an edge. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. I'm going with the Bulldogs, Mississippi State, 28-27. It's going to be a fun, close game. All I'm so glad that we're getting into the SEC
I know.
games. So many fun games. All right, next is LSU at 3-1, 1-0 in the SEC. At Auburn, 3-1, 1-0 in the SEC. 7:00 on ESPN. Jesse, your predictions for LSU at Auburn.
Despite the fact that they have the same record, these just feel like very different caliber teams, which is strange. But Auburn's going to play every play. I'm going to say that. Auburn will play every play. And so will LSU, turns out.
Ryan Harsin will remind them.
Despite that this game is taking place again at Jordan-Hare, I am going to pick the LSU Tigers 28-21 in a close one.
Yeah, I almost said that I was going to go with the Tigers on this one, but then I remembered. Matt said LSU 27-10. But I don't know. I don't know if both of these Tigers may end up being paper Tigers before the season is over with. I don't know. So Brian Kelly is not indebted to Brian Harsin, as far as I know, much like Eli Drinkwitz was. I don't think LSU will be looking for opportunities to lose this one. Look, I'm not saying that that's why Auburn won last week, but it was just kind of a funny storyline. Anyway, I'm going to go with LSU though. I got them winning 28-21. And then finally, number 1 Georgia at 4-0, 1-0 in the SEC. At Missouri at 2-2, 0-1 in the SEC. That is 7:30 on the SEC network. Jesse, what do you think?
I keep changing my pick. I'm not changing my pick. I'm changing the score.
I know. I just keep seeing the cursor go back and forth.
I know. This one's gonna be boring. Mizzou, we saw last week, sucks. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Georgia, they I think felt a little bit embarrassed last week, so they're really gonna be going for blood. I'm picking UGA 45-9, and these are like 3 late field goals.
Okay. Matt also has Georgia big 52-10. Like I said, hopefully Saturday was a wake-up call for the Dogs. I think that they'll be a little more focused on this Saturday. Still, I think there's probably going to be things to work on, as we saw. But I will go with the Dogs 42-7. I think that they're just able to, I don't know if that's a commentary on how good I think Georgia is or how bad I think Mizzou is. So it's a little bit of both, I think. All right, so that does it for this upcoming slate of games. And then just for fun, so it's kind of getting crazy in the months of September and this season. It is hurricane season and it's ramping up, which means we all need to be prepared, right? So
I said, amen. I live on the coast.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I was going to say that's very high on your list of priorities. So, which begs the question, which SEC head coach do you think is a doomsday prepper? Who would you be going to saying, look, I know you got it all together. You've planned for this. What do we do now?
So my first initial thought was going to be Mike Leach, but I sat back and I thought about it for a minute. And I think he's the opposite. I don't think he's prepping. I think he's like, especially for like a hurricane, he's like, absolutely not. The pirates were able to fight them in wooden ships and we can do it. And And I think he's the same probably with like being a doomsday prepper. He's gonna be like, no, I'll live off the land. I don't need to prep for it. I know what to do. I don't think he preps.
We'll show the hurricane the taste of the cold steel.
Yeah, I think he's just like the opposite, where he's like, zombie apocalypse, don't even care. I'll be ready and I'll just fight them instead of no, he's not living underground. The person living underground is Eli Drinkwitz. So I think like in terms of a hurricane, they're talking about this hurricane that's out in the middle of the ocean right now. And I don't even know if it's classified as like a hurricane yet, but I think he's going to be like, oh my gosh, we have to get the cellar ready. We have to be ready. Everyone's probably telling him, Eli, like, you're in Missouri. I think we're like, okay.
Right.
I think we're fine. He's like, no, we have to prepare. And if there was some sort of apocalypse, like this man's dainty, he's not going to survive. So he is absolutely prepping under, like in a little shelter. He's underground. He's got canned food from 2012
and an actual circle of wagons.
Yeah, and an actual wagon circle. Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, so I like that one. That's a really good one. I'm going to go with Jimbo Fisher.
I can see it.
I think he's definitely a doomsday prepper, but I think he's probably like not a good one. Okay. So I think like he has this whole like giant like warehouse full of stuff, but when it comes time to use it, he's going to have no idea what to do with it. Much like his recruiting classes. So
I was just getting stuff that you're like, Jimbo, that's actually perishable. That
right. Yeah.
That's mayonnaise. And
exactly. This is like 10 years old, Jimbo. Like what?
Yeah.
You can actually
milk
see
and bread.
it's actually a different color now than what it was when you bought it. Like, what is the deal, dude?
He's like, I wouldn't even see him as like a warehouse guy. I see him as like he bought a porta potty and dug a hole under it. And he's just like, no one will know. And you're like, this is gross.
Right. Yeah. Oh man.
But with
yeah.
a name like Jimbo, you would be a prepper.
He has to be, right? I don't know. But I love the idea of a porta potty thrown in the ground. That's no,
great. I'm imagining it like that's the entrance. It's like the porta potty, you open it and you like lift the lid and there's this little staircase.
Oh, yes, down. Oh, okay. I thought you meant like
this is a bad idea. Someone will see this and they are not going to know that it's a bunker.
Somebody's going to use it and it's just going to be terrible. Yeah.
Gross. And then we're stuck down here.
Exactly. No, I love it. All right. Well, that was hilarious. Thank you for listening to this episode, this mini-sode of Pigskins and Pageantry. If you would like to contact us, please email us at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We are at Pigskins and Pageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. On Twitter, we are at PPSEC Podcast. Don't forget, we are available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. If you enjoyed the show, please hit that subscribe button or follow or whatever the app says that you're particularly listening to or watching us on. Give us a 5-star review. We would love that and help our visibility, help us continue to make these. And yeah, so like I said, we're on Amazon Music as well, iHeartRadio. We're trying to get on all the things right now. So thank you very much for listening. And hey, lots of exciting games coming up. Looking forward to it. Until next time, this is Wes. Go Dogs.
As always, y'all, Bama, beat those Razorbacks. Roll Tide.